The first time I walked into a summer kitchen outside Strasburg in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, in the middle of August, I expected smoke and old grease. What I found instead changed something. The room was cooler than the yard, not cold, just steady. I could smell wood, dried apples, and hot iron, but I could not smell that sharp chemical note you get from a damaged coated pan. Light came through one narrow window. It hit the black skillet on the stove lid and stayed there. No fan noise, no extractor hum, no aerosol can on the shelf, no bottle promising miracle release. I stood there for 11 minutes looking for the thing I thought made cast iron work. It was not there. No fancy grease, no secret wax, no spray coating, and that is when I understood I had been wrong about everything. The pan was not nonstick because of one magic oil. It was nonstick because the surface had been trained. Heat first, then restraint, then repetition, not more grease, less. I watched a hand crack an egg into dry-looking iron. It should have glued itself down. That is what I expected. Instead, the white set, the edges lifted, and the whole thing moved when the pan tilted half an inch. That was the moment, short and clean. You hear people talk about cast iron as if it belongs to folklore. It does not. It belongs to physics. And once you see it happen in a real kitchen, the whole modern cookware story starts looking expensive. I have been going back to Lancaster County every autumn for 4 years, and every time I find something the cookware industry forgot on purpose, here is the promise. If you understand one surface number, one heat habit, and one wiping mistake, your cast iron stops behaving like raw metal and starts behaving like a tool. A 117.6 degree water shedding surface sounds impossible until you know how it is built. And yes, this works even if you've never done this before. Stay with me. Because what I found in Lancaster County uses the same physics Han metalworkers used to make raw iron hold oil, shed moisture, and release food more than 2,200 years ago. I went looking for one miracle fat. That was the first mistake. At Virginia Tech in 2024, I found food scientist Sean O'Keefe explaining that seasoning is polymerized oil, not grease soaking into metal. That matters a lot. When you heat a very thin film of oil, the molecules link up and form a hard protective layer. That layer blocks rust, changes the surface chemistry, and makes sticking much harder when the pan is properly preheated. Then I found the deeper piece. In a 2023 Chongqing University paper, repeated oiling and heating produced Fe3O4 nanoballs on iron and a water contact angle of 117.6 degrees after 5 cycles. Think about your car hood after wax. Rain beads up. It does not spread and grab. Your pan works the same way when the surface is right and the temperature is ready. Food sticks when wet protein lands on reactive, underheated iron. Food releases when the pan is hot enough, the moisture flashes off, and the seasoned surface stops acting like bare metal. In cookware, the equivalent performance metric is service life. 30 to 80 years of usable release for every one iron pan versus 3 to 5 years for a coated pan. That gap represents a massive market in cookware, coatings, and replacement sales every year. And that is why you have never heard of this. In East Hempfield Township, I felt the proof before I named it. The stove ticked, a kettle whispered. The skillet sat black and matte, not glossy, and the room held that dry iron warmth you feel in your wrists. I asked Jacob what he used on the pan. He smiled at the question before he answered it. Then he told me, "You heat it first. You wipe it nearly dry. You cook on it." That was it. No speech, no mysticism, just habit. I watched breakfast come off that pan with almost no sound. No scraping, no tearing. When I asked how long his family had done it that way, he said, 4 generations here. Longer before here. Then he pointed back, not forward. Back to German people from the Palatinate who brought kitchen habits west and kept them because replacing tools made no sense. That continuity is not imaginary. It shows up in the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission's Lancaster Plain Study, which tracks German-speaking farm households from 1730 to 1960 across Strasburg, East Hempfield, and nearby townships. It shows up again in Lancaster County agricultural records from 1947. The Amish did not invent the habit, they kept it alive. Go back far enough and the pattern appears again. In Han Dynasty, China, cast iron cooking vessels were already common, and surviving examples from 206 BC to 220 AD still show you what mattered. Mass, heat, and blackened metal, used again and again, move west and north. In Korea, by the Three Kingdoms era, builders were running heat through slightly angled brick and stone channels under the floor, slowing the release and storing warmth after the fire died. Different object, same lesson. You do not win with raw flame, you win with managed heat. That is the whole secret. Slow transfer, stored energy, a surface trained by repetition. The Amish did not read this in a textbook. They figured it out the way all real knowledge gets discovered, by paying attention to what the material was already doing. Every civilization that mastered harsh winters and scarce fuel arrived at the same answer independently. The Amish never forgot. They carried it from the Palatinate to Pennsylvania about 300 years ago and kept building it because it worked and because they never needed anyone's permission to do what made sense. Then the money arrived. In 1945, Kinetic Chemicals, the DuPont and General Motors partnership, registered the Teflon trademark and locked PTFE inside a protected commercial future. That decision changed your kitchen. A properly seasoned iron pan is a buy-once tool. A buy-once tool is terrible for a market that depends on replacement cycles, upgrades, coatings, and fresh promises. Today, the coated segment controls 62.62% of a $4.02 billion American cookware market. That is the threat in numbers. The mechanism was not subtle. In 1960, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration cleared PTFE for food processing uses. In 1961, Marion Trozolo brought the first American Teflon-coated skillet to market as the Happy Pan. The sentence that did the work was simple. Nothing sticks to Happy Pan? That line moved the public mind faster than any chemistry lesson ever could. DuPont reinforced it through Teflon advertising and televised promotion preserved in the Hagley archives. Once that promise hit American kitchens, cast iron was recast as primitive, fussy, and old. That knowledge never disappeared. It was written out of the manual. It was waiting. The Allies were lined up neatly. DuPont paid for the message. Cavalcade of America carried DuPont's voice into living rooms. The Food and Drug Administration opened the food contact door. General Motors sat inside Kinetic Chemicals as DuPont's industrial partner. Patent, approval, advertising, checkout, one clean chain. An entire field of practical kitchen knowledge disappeared from daily language, wedding registries, and home care advice. Not because it failed, because it wasn't profitable. You can still see the same fight now. In 2023, Minnesota passed Amara's Law, the first U.S. ban on PFAS in cookware. That did not happen in a quiet market. Food and Water Watch reported $55.7 million in lobbying by major current and former PFAS manufacturers from 2019 to 2022. Nobody told you. Not your builder, not your contractor, not the man who sold you the new kitchen set. The cookware market in America is worth $4.02 billion a year. Every cast iron pan you season correctly is one coated pan that never gets replaced. Now, if you already own a house and you're thinking this only applies to people starting fresh, stay with me. Because this next part is specifically for you. You don't need to buy equipment, you need a weekend. Start with a 10-inch or 12-inch cast iron skillet. If it is sticky already, do not add more oil and hope. That is how most people make the problem permanent. Wash it once with hot water, a drop of modern dish soap, and a stiff brush. Then dry it on low heat for 3 minutes and park it in a 225-degree oven for 12 minutes so every trace of water leaves. Pull it out carefully. Put 1/4 teaspoon of grapeseed oil or soybean oil on a square of muslin cotton or a blue shop towel. Wipe the cooking surface, the sidewalls, the rim, the handle, and the bottom. Then wipe it again with a clean section until the pan looks almost dry. That second wipe is the secret. Buffing the pan until it looks nearly bare is not optional. Leaving a glossy film causes gummy polymer, patchy carbon, and instant sticking. Now turn the pan upside down on the center rack and bake it at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour. Let it cool for 20 minutes with the door cracked. Repeat that cycle 3 to 5 times. If your pan is rough, cook 1 sliced onion in 1 tablespoon of oil for 8 to 10 minutes after the final bake. Then cook 2 eggs, then cook 3 more. The surface gets better under use. For cleanup, skip soaking. Use hot water, 1 tablespoon of kosher salt, or a stainless chainmail scrubber for 30 to 45 seconds. Dry on heat for 2 minutes. Wipe on 4 to 6 drops of flaxseed, grapeseed, or soybean oil while the pan is still warm. If you want precision, use an infrared thermometer. Start eggs when the center surface reads 375 to 400 degrees. Start cornbread closer to 425. Start skin on potatoes lower, around 350, so the starch has time to dry and release. On a 95-degree day, with a 6-minute preheat and a pan wiped correctly, this will let an egg slide with 1 wrist turn. No spray, no liner, no fresh coating, just iron doing its job. This requires attention once a season if you use it often, and once a year if you do not. The materials cost stays low, $7 to $14 for oil, $3 to $6 for kosher salt, $4 to $9 for muslin cloth, and $12 to $19 for chainmail. Your conventional non-stick skillet costs $28 to $74 to buy, about $2 a month to replace on schedule, and lasts 3 to 5 years before it ends up in a landfill. This costs $26 to $48 total. It lasts 30 to 80 years. Your choice. Everything I've covered across this channel, root cellar humidity control, winter heat from masonry, vinegar laundry without residue, I've put it all in one place. Step by step, season by season, room by room, in the order the families actually use it. I haven't named it yet. Link is in the description, but stay here, because what Jacob showed me is the part nobody is talking about yet. Here is the part people miss. You are not building a slippery pan. You are building a stable relationship between temperature, dryness, and restraint. Most people destroy that relationship by flooding the iron, rushing the preheat, or chasing shine. Shine is not the goal. Release is. A deep black mirror can still stick if it is cold. A dull pan can release beautifully if it is hot and dry. That is the mistake most people keep repeating. You were told seasoning was about feeding the pan. It is not. It is about teaching the surface how to behave. The first coat protects, the next coat stabilizes. Cooking finishes the job. That is why the old kitchens look so ordinary. No branded system, no specialized chemistry lesson, just repetition. That knowledge never disappeared. It was filed away. It was waiting. If you're the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe. Not for me. For what comes next. Because this is not a channel. This is a quiet movement of people who have decided they're done being sold what they already own. I want to hear from you. Drop your state, the cast iron mistake that cost you the most, or the trick your grandfather swore by in the comments. I read every single one, and your answers decide what we cover next. Next week, I'm going to show you what a 1946 Penn State document reveals about keeping a pantry cool without compressors, refrigerant, or noise. The technique uses nothing but lime, airflow, and wet burlap. And the old extension paper that proves institutions knew about it decades before selling you the electric alternative, you're not going to want to miss that one.